What's your views on the difference in budgets between the top F1 teams and the teams that are lower down, and what impact do you think that has on the sport?
Good question again. There's always been big teams. There's always been teams with more money. At the present time, the differences are bigger. And when you think of Mercedes-Benz at the present time, they employ in the factory, somebody told me the other day it was in excess of 700 people now in the factory. And then they've got a wee engine shop next door. Now, can you imagine the Silver Arrows, giants of the 20s and 30s with Auto Union and Mercedes-Benz, then in the 50s with Fangio and Moss winning 2 world championships back to back, and now here they are, the great German company. Cars made in Bicester in Buckinghamshire, and so is the engine. Britain, because our technology is better than in Germany or any other country. We are the capital for motorsport technology for the whole damn world. So the budgets have always been, Ferrari always had more than BRM, for example, or HWM before that, you know, in the years of Stirling Moss coming along, etc. The big teams, Maserati and Ferrari or Alfa Romeo, or when you got into it, the teams with money have always done well. There was a lovely period when everybody could buy a Lotus or a Cooper, and they could, in later years when I was doing it, they could buy a Cosworth engine, a Ford Cosworth engine. You could go in when it first began. Ken Tyrrell, who I drove for, after I won my first world championship, Ken said, you know, we're going to make a statement for Cosworth. I'm going to put an advert in that says, if you go and buy a Cosworth engine, which in those days cost £7,500. That's what an engine cost, a Formula One engine, way back in 71, 72. If you bought that and answered Ken's advert, he said that Jackie Stewart would drive it in the next Grand Prix. He was so confident that the Cosworth engine was so well created that there was no ups and downs. I think the biggest difference I ever heard of was 6 horsepower in a Cosworth engine. Now you're making engines that God knows what they cost. I don't think anybody does know what a Mercedes engine really costs. You know, the amount of money they've put into it, and Mercedes, because the Silver Arrows still want to win. So those budgets have gone way up. So has Red Bull, because Mateschitz could afford it. And it was exactly the right sport for them. So these budgets went up and went out of control. And the governing body have allowed that to happen. So there are ways of stopping it, but there's no way of stopping an Adrian Newey. But there was a John Barnard before Adrian Newey. There was, who was it was working with Frank? Patrick Head. These were geniuses at creating new gizmos within a Formula One racing car that showed an advantage. They came in with ground effects like nobody else ever had, Williams for a while. When Nigel Mansell was winning races with Piquet, that car, the Williams car, and we have Frank's son right here, was just blowing everybody away. And Colin Chapman for a while was doing the same with Jim Clark. These were not expensive cars, however, the Clark cars or the Cooper cars that Brabham was driving. So they've now gone over the top. And for Red Bull to have 680 people in the factory with somebody else's engine, I don't know, how many people do you have in the factory?
On Formula One, about 600.
600 people looking after 2 prima donna racing drivers. Basically. 4. I didn't know there were 4 prima donnas, but there are. So suddenly it's become unaffordable for an awful lot of people. The days of Ken Tyrrell are well over. And he won, can you imagine that Ken Tyrrell, we won the World Championship in the first full year that he ever entered a car in Formula One Grand Prix racing. We won the World Championship. The constructors, I mean, not just the drivers. And the car was built in a wooden hut in Ripley, Surrey. Literally a wooden hut. I don't know how many people he had, maybe 40, 45 people in total, and to come to a racetrack would probably be in total, would probably be 8 people, and that includes his wife Nora, who made the sandwiches, and Ken Tittle himself. So it's changed. So I think it's gone over the top. How it's going to be equalised, I'm not quite sure, but it definitely needs to be changed because money still talks. Mercedes-Benz have done it for years, since the 20s and 50s, and now here. I don't know if that answers your question, but it is a problem. There is no doubt. And it's right now, the 2 drivers who are driving Mercedes-Benz right now have a huge advantage. It's not the same World Championship to win that as it was for Niki Lauda, for example, and James Hunt to be tying until the last race of the year. It was a whole different business. There was much more equality in those days. We need more equality. And we need more drivers who are really going to be outstanding to do that. And at the moment, if you don't have the right car, you're always more than 1.5 seconds slower than the Mercs right now. 1.5 seconds? I mean, if I had had 0.2 of a second advantage for pole position, I would have been more than pleased. So it's spoiling the spectators' pleasure, in my opinion, and that is important both for television and for the live audience. So it needs change.